I told you that everything you consume is genetically modified? From the apples you eat to the milk you drink, nearly all food in the United States is touched by genetic modifications. Now, is that a bad thing? Genetically engineered food, or most commonly known as GMOs, have been under scrutiny in recent years, but is there any reason to be afraid of them? Is there any evidence that proves that GMOs are bad for us or our environment? Today I will be discussing how GMOs were created, why they are scrutinized, and how they could benefit the future of food. GMOs are not a recent fad. We have been genetically engineering our food since humans began farming. According to Bill Ganzel of livinghistoryfarm.org, prehistoric farmers have been selecting the most productive plants and seeds from their domesticated crops for up to 10,000 years. This means that farmers have been able to create seeds to meet their specific needs, for example, a pest, weather, or even drought-resistant plant. Modifying the DNA of these seeds made it possible for people to grow crops in areas where nothing could have survived on its own. If GMOs touch nearly everything we consume in the U.S., how could it still be a problem? According to the Washington Post, as of last fall, nearly 60% of Americans believed that GMOs were generally unsafe. Why is that? The Washington Post said in their article, "Why are we so scared of GMOs?" according to someone who has studied them since the start. It's something that seems a little unnatural, and there's a psychological tendency to desire naturalness in food and to avoid some novelty in food. In this clip from the YouTube video, Eyes of Nye, GMO Foods, Bill Nye explains how genetically modified foods came to be and the possible benefits they pose for our future.
About 10,000 years ago, people found that they didn't have to chase their food around all day. They could grow it right there where they were. It's called farming. And ever since then, we've been trying to control plants and animals for three good reasons: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, how many cows do you think you'd see if they'd never been domesticated by humans? You ever seen a cow out in the wild fighting for its life? You think chickens will one day rise up and take over the world? No, I don't think so. Somewhere back in time, thousands and thousands of years ago, feeding ourselves changed from a little luck to a lot of science. We've been trying to improve that science ever since. Haven't we, ladies? In the United States, grocery shelves are filled with genetically modified food. Take a look at this corn. No blemishes, not a kernel out of place. Only in America, right? Well, not exactly. In Europe, if a food is genetically modified, it has to be labeled as such. Now, why is that? Is there something to be afraid of? Well, that's a good question, and one that's probably not asked often enough. We're getting more and more genetically modified food faster and faster. What is it? Do we need it? Is it safe? Well, let's have a look. Every living thing contains DNA, which includes chromosomes and genes. Now, genes provide the instructions to build a living thing. If you change one of the genes, you rewrite one of the instructions. So instead of Bill Nye the brown-eyed guy, you'd get Bill Nye with blue eyes. Some people think that would be a distinct improvement. But when we genetically modify our food, say by taking a gene from a fish and putting it in a tomato, we're creating a whole new species, one that's never existed on Earth before. So some would say, you've created a monster, a frankenfood. Others would say, no, it's still a fruit or a vegetable. I'm just making my lunch. Do you, domesticated wheat, take this wild wheat to be your lawfully wedded hybrid? See, breeding food crops is a lot like a marriage, or a wedding, a shotgun wedding, because the wheat doesn't have much say in the matter. But traditional breeding of food crops takes plenty of human intervention. Agricultural scientists have been tinkering with our food for centuries. That's why most of the food you eat cannot be found in nature. So watermelon, tomatoes, plums, and corn bear little resemblance to their original natural species. But now scientists can take it another step. They can get rid of this wedding ceremony altogether and mix genes from species that are hardly related at all. So how does that go? Something old, something new, something borrowed, and something... There's nothing blue here.
Now we will discuss how GMOs can benefit the future of agriculture in the U.S. Did you know that if a cow is not milked, it will die? Or that corn can't grow on its own without any help from humans? That's due to genetic modifications. We have domesticated our animals and grown food to be resistant to pests, weather conditions, and even giving them a longer shelf life. As our population continues to grow, we are facing an issue of having enough food. But if we continue to genetically modify our foods, we will have an abundance. According to FoodDialogues.com article, What Are Benefits of GMOs Both Today and in the Future? Scientists are currently working on creating a hypoallergenic peanut. If they are able to modify foods to make them hypoallergenic, who knows what could be next? The possibilities are endless. In conclusion, GMOs are nothing to be afraid of. If anything, they should be a sign that science and agriculture has defied all odds and has created food to benefit society. We have discussed how GMOs were created, why they are under such scrutiny, and how they could benefit agriculture of the future. Next time you enjoy a red, delicious apple, just think back to what it once was and how far it has come because of GMOs.